My name is Irfan Habib.
My name is Gita Glazerson.
My name is Kellen Nielsen.
I'm a matric learner at Parktown Boys High School and I live in Gauteng, Johannesburg.
I'm from Glen Hazel in Johannesburg. It's a Jewish suburb.
Ke dula mo River Park. Ke tsena sekolo kwa Life Science and Med School. Ke dira grade 12.
I'm from Alberton. I came to Bracken High School.
My name's Stephanie Rascott. I was born in Eldorado Park. I grew up here.
My name is Shazia Patel. I grew up in the Cyril Dean area.
I grew up there. I entered my grade 1 there and then I moved to the suburbs.
I'm an individual that opens up to others once I get used to them. I'm 18 years old and I attend Christian Botha Secondary School.
I attend Rodin School. They use the English school system, and it is a very strict school, and it's also an Anglican school, so they try to incorporate Christianity and they instill the Christian values and morals into the children.
Growing up in Glen Hazel has been a very sheltered life. Everything you need is in a 2-kilometer radius. The synagogue you'll go to on a Saturday, your kosher butcher, your bakery.
Ntse leng go tla mo Alexandra ke gore bophelo ba mo bo fast. Ntse ngwe le ngwe e batlang wa ithola. Go na le opportunities tse dingata. Tsana le go nya go dira kgwebo. Batho ke ba bantsi ba ka o supportang.
Living in Elders is quite safe depending on who you hang out with, what kind of crowd you're around. Living in Elders, I can walk to the shop and I feel safe because I know everyone around in my area. Talking about the drug lords and stuff, that really doesn't have any effect on me.
Living in Alberton, my life is quiet. It's not as glamorous as people would expect if I lived in maybe central Joburg. But I'm very fortunate. My family has provided enough for me. My brother as well. We're living a good life, and I thank my parents for that because that's what parents should do for their kids. They should provide a stable background, a foundation as well, and values and ethics for their children. We're at the rugby fields of Bracken High. I come here every Monday, Tuesday and Thursday. I coach the boys, my brother as well. We come and train here every day for Fridays because we play games on Fridays every Friday. Well, we played 2 games on that day and we won both games, which I'm happy about. His name's Lindo Mbele. I met him when I was in grade 2. He was actually playing soccer and I was waiting for my mother to pick me up. And I went over to him and I asked him, can I play soccer with you? And he said yes. And he actually slept over that night at my house and we went to school the next day together. And from then, he's been doing that at my house ever since. And now he actually basically lives with us, which is awesome.
My goal right now is to head to varsity and to study physics, and more specifically it's astrophysics. Astrophysics to me is the ideal field for me because, I mean, studying the universe, and there's nothing more fascinating, there's nothing more mysterious, more unknown than the universe itself. But the first time I actually had this idea of astrophysics, is the thing that introduced it to me. I mean, if I tell you this, you'll probably laugh, but it was The Big Bang Theory, which is a sitcom on television.
Okay, truly speaking, I leap next had to be next leap, but then could like a butuaka, look at Sunday school, Horkona school is a ranky leap, so offer a bazar. So Cabana Horke, maybe apply for a bazar or Horkito stay quickly, give a little pillow on a kitty local sake. So, do you like a Sunday school, go to like a butuaka, Katala Hongala testi, ka attend every Monday, go leap. Okay, Nikawata Hova a geologist since from Kikanako Primary School, Nakorata Social Science, but then Kikanako High School, Kaita Geography, then Kava interested more Komatlapeng, Horafo Mekajang, Wetahalanka Matlapa, then Kava interested more Kinsa and some Horiki discover Horike, actually interested Kaulena Hangataka Matlapa. So I find out Horkonale career geology. So Kimoki decided Kit decided Lankotan Hora and become a geologist. So I got on it will be difficult. It can be easy because of mama ka sebetse papa ka o tlhokofetse, so I think it was difficult because no ke dependa kwa botong waka, so I ke tsebe gore ke tle thola tšhelete gore mama ka mpatele next year ke sekolong and all that, because I so apply for bursary or anything like that, so it was difficult, but the inner part of me ke believe gore I can do it, ke believe gore nka e etsa today, yeah, gore ke be the better person ka
So grade 8, I was failing, I won't lie, wasn't happy. I just thought, how am I going to do this? Sometimes I'd hide my reports and no, you didn't pay school fees, so I need to only report it this time. As the years progressed, I let go of the ego a little bit and I focused, loved my teachers, and every single day I did a little bit so that at the end I don't do a lot and panic. At the end, the results went from the 30s to the 80s and 90s, and I got 6 distinctions in total.
I like to be involved in my community and other communities in the lives of people. So the Christchurch Christian Care Centre, they were an organization that was linked with my school, and so my school has a program where we go on Mondays and we teach them. And I started this in grade 9, which was almost 4 years ago, and I got so attached to the place because the children there, it's very beautiful that it doesn't matter to them where they're from or how they live or whatever. They're just children. And I think that's the beauty of it.
I'm rolling already, so.
This year our school's actually celebrating its 60th anniversary. The head of the school, his name's Rabbi Tanza, and his wife Marsha Tanza. They've been involved in Yeshiva College for 50 years. They were founding members of the Jewish community throughout South Africa. The school holds quite a strong legacy for me. My parents went here, my grandparents have been involved on the campus for years. It's a Jewish day school, but more than that, it's a religious Jewish day school, a Torah Jewish day school. I think this school, Yeshiva College, is the midpoint between worldly yet religious. I think that we're both. I think that they've struck the perfect balance between that, is that as well as being religious, we have prayers every morning, we have Jewish studies every single day, and we learn all parts of Judaism, from the practical to the mystical to the historical. But at the same time, we're involved in lots of after-school projects. So I think that you get a good balance of a religious lifestyle, but still maintaining a worldly lifestyle, is that it's not closed-minded and it's not shut off.
I think that our education system in public schools have failed us. Like, if I could start and do a do-over, like what high school do I go to, I'd definitely not choose CJB because it's been hectic. There's over 47 learners in one class where one cannot focus initially in a class. The children will make a noise. Some of them don't even respect the teacher. Like just last month, a girl in grade 9 smacked an elder teacher. It's just crazy.
I'm not interested in educating myself about politics. I won't lie. I have no interest in doing it.
It's not something I discuss with a lot of my friends. I mean, there are a few friends but those are few and far between who actually take an interest in it. But as a general rule, no, we do not talk politics.
In my opinion, everyone I know who's so much into politics gets caught up in that whole vicious circle, and I don't want that.
I think we don't remember what apartheid was because we never experienced it, so we don't really have a background to talk on about it. I don't think that we would be concerned about it because we haven't went through that.
I know very, very little about the monuments in Johannesburg and the Greater Johannesburg area.
The monuments I know in Gauteng, they don't even make up a percentage. Honestly, some things just don't fascinate me.
I know nothing about the Freedom Charter.
know much about the Freedom Square, I must be honest, and I have no clue of the history. I've never heard, never been taught. I do think it's very important to look into the history, but I also think you can't dwell on the history, because when you start to dwell on the history, you get stuck there and you get stuck in the past and you can't move forward. I think that children today are much more materialistic and they're more concerned about having a new phone than going to vote for their president, taking what they have for granted, taking their freedom for granted, taking their privileges for granted, and they're not really managing to overcome that and overcome that apathy.
What I'm here for today is to try to bridge the gap between what I know and what you know. What I am trying to do today is to open up a first few steps around things that you may not know and offer an interpretation. The youth of today and all of us have the job of interpreting our freedom, giving meaning to our freedom. It's not obvious what freedom means. It's not obvious what the people shall govern should mean. Don't we all want to be active citizens, defending our rights, advancing our rights? Freedom is something that is never finally realized. It is something that can grow and grow. And people like yourselves need to read the Constitution, to read the Freedom Charter and say, what does this mean? Is it still relevant? It's not up to me to give you the final word. It's up to you to take whatever you have learned here and ask questions and see whether it can benefit you and, in fact, reject what you think is necessary to reject. Okay, thanks.
Look at the second sentence there. It's so beautiful. Isn't it? How it's presented. It's like the Freedom Charter was to become a shining light of humanism in the long dark years of the struggle. How beautiful is that imagery?
That's quite amazing.
Yeah.
The place where we're at now would be Freedom Square, and Professor Sattler obviously gave us an insight into the significance of Freedom Square. The most important thing I can take from this chat that he gave us today was how he stressed the importance of the interpretation of the Freedom Charter and how everyone can interpret it in different ways. And that's really the beauty of the Freedom Charter, because, and this is something he said, was the continuous interpretation of the Freedom Charter, and that allows it to stand not only for that time period but for moving forward in our future as a country, as a nation.
First and foremost, I would like to thank the Vice Chancellor and Director of University of the Free State, Professor Jonathan Jansen, because it is through him, together with you, that I am here. Professor Sattler's talk actually conscientized me on certain aspects. These include, it broadened my knowledge about the Freedom Charter. There are certain things that I never knew about it. These include the volunteers that went to the townships to demand the masses' ideas. What do they want to South Africa to be? How do they visualize it as their juridical society? So his talk actually broadened my knowledge on what I knew. So it gave me more and more. So I'm even hungry for more knowledge.
I like that because it says no one shall be imprisoned, deported, restricted, or restricted without a fair trial. So it's like, it's not saying, look, we are without punishment and whatever. It's saying, look, that's allowed if there's a fair trial and the person is condemned thereafter. So I think that that's important.
Okay, so yesterday I had no idea that Freedom Square was about 5 minutes away from our home. Apart from yesterday and today, I've actually been informed a lot about Freedom Square, about the freedom fighters and how we came to where we are today, about equality and that everyone should be treated equally amongst us, no matter what nationality they are or gender or race.
The original Peterson spelled we have an I. The reason why is so that they could have their original surname, which is Pitso. Some of the slates that you see here represent the schools that students were attending in during the apartheid era. Some of the slates represent the number of students that have attended the march when they were marching to Pefeni High School, where they were going to represent their memorandum to the Department of Education. As they were approaching Muyema and Vilakazi Street, they were approached by the police and they were instructed that they have to go back to their schools within 5 minutes. It was not going to be possible for them to go back to their schools within the 5 minutes that they were given by the police. The first victim of June 16, 1976, it was Hastings Ndlovu. He was 17 years of age and he was shot at Kumalo and Pila Street. This place, when it was built in commemoration of 577 students who fought and who died for us as young people of South Africa to have a better education.
Actually, I feel sad because of baletse rena mar as youth ya rena today ba banga ba iskolong motho no dula ko gae ba lebala gore gona le batho ba shwetseng ba shwileng ba lutse maphila bona gore yena tlo gona iskolong, but then this never days o tshela gore motho di tsekontlong ga iskolong ka botsa di excuse tse dingata ba tsuba di kwae ba tsuba di patch ba nwa di piele tse jala ba ye ko iskolong, so batho ba nka into as excuse ba lebala gore ga ile gona le batho ba lutse maphila bona gore ba lwele bona ba lwele di into di rights gore ba ye ko iskolong ba rutiwe ka Zulu ke rutiwe ka Sepedi go rutiwe ka Tshangani language tse ka fela. So I think gore ke responsibility ya ka gore ke ya sekolong ke rutiwe ke be le knowledge.
People need to consider the personality and the drive behind the person and how hard they work, and not by the color of their skin. I think they need to look at what's better for the country and not what looks better for the country.
I think that it is unfortunate that the Hector Peterson Museum has become somewhat a tourist attraction, and the struggle is so far away, seemingly, that people do not appreciate how much the youth fought. Once you realize that it's just all of this happened to people of our community, people just like us, people whose offspring share the same space as we do now, that makes me feel like it's just as attached to me as it was to my parents, and I think that makes me even more ambitious to try and rectify the problems of the past. Democracy is about change, and so whether you're voting for what people perceive as the wrong party or what people perceive as the right party, the importance is that choice.
Okay, now vote it means gore tsane ke change bophelo ba batho ba bangwe, because a single vote ya ka it tlo etsa difference go di voting tse dingwe. So I believe gore nka vote it tlo etsa a big difference gore okay maybe ANC ka win or any political party ka gona win because of vote ya ka.
It's exciting to have the ability to vote next year for the first time. It's the first time you're going to actively shape the future of your country, and that's the real thrill of it.
I'm going to decide how to use my vote by actually doing research, because at the moment I'm not sure. Most parties have their own little something that they can give back to the country, and others lack what they need to give to the country. So by hearing what other people say and their opinions of the different parties, and by my research and my parents included, I think that'll give me a better understanding of who to vote for.
I admit I haven't done the appropriate research, and anything I know about politics is either from the newspapers, which I read, and that's journalism, and the side that my parents take and who they vote for.
The policies of the party that I'd like to vote for doesn't really concern me that much. I think it's more the action that they're going to be doing in our communities that's actually going to count.
Nah, nka votela ANC because of gore ke be ke tle mo ke leng ka teng mo di RTP tse ke tlong ka teng, it's because of ANC, because ko ne ke dula ko teng ne ke sena access ko electricity, like everything was just bad. So now I think ANC and some people because of now we're electricity, RTP, it's much better now, it's clean.
I don't believe that the DA appeals to me completely and that I am a die-hard DA supporter. They seem to have gotten a few things right that some of the other parties haven't, and yes, they do have their downfalls as well.
Okay, I can't get to vele. Mara I ke sure gore ke ile etsang cause as gale ba formula party eo, but then I think le yona I get the same thing as ke mentioned like ANC gore ba supply batho ka dintlu ba etselo tse ba bonang gore batho ba di needa. Yeah, le yona ka ba political party eleng good. I ke tsebe a lot of information ka agang actually.
From what I've seen in a university context and a school context, even my exposure to what I read in the news, the EFF hasn't been hasn't gotten a lot of support, and I think that that's because of Julius Malema's reputation. But I'm not going to say yes, everything they do is bad, because I have no exposure to because of their relatively new status. I have no exposure to what they are capable of and what they can do. So I think that that's kind of a wait and see what happens in that space. I attend Rodin School. They use the English school system, and it is a very strict school, and it's also an Anglican school, so they try to incorporate Christianity, and they instill the Christian values and morals into the children.
Growing up in Glen Hazel has been a very sheltered life. Everything you need is in a 2-kilometre radius. The synagogue you'll go to on a Saturday, your kosher butcher, your bakery.
ntho e leng kotsi ka dula mo Alexandra ke gore bophelo ba mo bo faste ntho engwe le engwe e batlang wa e tshola go na le opportunity tse dingata tshwana le go nya go dira kgwebo batho ke ba bantši ba ka o supportang.
Living in elders is quite safe depending on who you hang out with, what kind of crowd you're around. Living in elders, I can walk to the shop and I feel safe because I know everyone around in my area. Talking about the drug lords and stuff, that really doesn't have any effect on me.
Living in Alberton, my life is quiet. It's not as glamorous as people would expect if I lived in maybe central Joburg. But I'm very fortunate. My family has provided enough for me. My brother as well. We're living a good life, and I thank my parents for that, because that's what parents should do for their kids. They should provide a stable background, a foundation as well, and values and ethics for their children.